about COVID. All they talk because they're trying to scare everybody. You have to lead your life.
As the president was busy downplaying COVID at a rally in Ohio yesterday.
And the virus infects close advisors to Vice President Pence.
News was breaking that another outbreak of the deadly virus had taken hold in the White House. This time, at least 5 members of the vice president's inner circle, including his chief of staff, had tested positive. But the news came via a Bloomberg press report, not the White House medical unit, prompting reports that the president's chief of staff had tried to hide the news.
Sharing personal information is not something that we should do, not something that we do actually do, unless it's the vice president or the president.
Vice President Pence is the head of the coronavirus task force. He has been exposed to somebody who tested positive.
Right.
The CDC guidelines say he should quarantine.
Well, I can tell you he is wearing a mask. He will be wearing a mask today as we have this.
But Mike Pence clearly won't be quarantining, the White House says, because he's an essential worker. So he'll continue travelling the country holding mass rallies despite his exposure to the disease.
I am here to ask for your help, because Joe and I cannot do this without you.
The Democratic vice presidential candidate Kamala Harris was campaigning in the battleground state of Michigan today. But earlier this month, she made the decision to step off the campaign trail for several days when some of her team tested positive, though they weren't close aides like Mr. Pence's chief of staff.
He should be following the guidelines. We're doing it. I think we have modeled the right and good behavior, and they should take our lead.
Despite record infection numbers and 225,000 Americans now dead, voters in their masks still came out in droves to cast their ballot 9 days ahead of the election.
I mean, for me personally, I think this is probably the most important election of my life anyway. I'd rather get it done, get it in, feel good about it, you know, do my civic duty.
What we don't want to do is become super spreaders, but thank you so much. I wish I could see all of you back there, but thank you for being here.
Joe Biden's team held a campaign drive-in, determined to keep their supporters in the swing state of Pennsylvania socially distanced and safe.
I wish I could go to car and meet you all. I don't like the idea of all this distance, but it's necessary.
COVID.
But the president isn't choosing to prioritize safety. Thousands continue to pack his rallies, this one in North Carolina yesterday, with few wearing masks.
COVID. By the way, on November 4th, you won't hear about it anymore.
And his message was clear. Don't worry about COVID, just vote for me.
COVID!
Well, Mike Pence and his wife have both tested negative again this morning, which means he will continue with a rally in North Carolina later on today. But this latest outbreak does raise questions about how seriously the White House is taking the risks to its staff. Remember, of course, that Mike Pence is head of the National Coronavirus Task Force. So if anybody should know the rules and be sticking to them, it's him. And yet clearly he is not planning to do so. He will not be quarantining. We know that they are desperate to brush any news of the virus under the carpet. That's why you saw the president there in my piece trying to mock anybody, really, who's taking it seriously. But the numbers tell a very different story. Yesterday, there were nearly 79,000 new cases reported and 871 deaths. And infection rates are soaring across the majority of U.S. states, among them Wisconsin, where they've had to open a new field hospital to deal with the rising number of cases. It's where the president is desperate to hold on to that battleground state that Hillary Clinton lost surprisingly in 2016. The president was there yesterday. He will be there again on Tuesday ahead of a whirlwind stop of states tomorrow, including 3 in Pennsylvania, Michigan and Nebraska. The president still, of course, trailing in the polls to Joe Biden. But remember that Hillary Clinton was winning at this time too in 2016. So there is still everything to play for, and the president intends to do just that.